It's the Security Weekly News, and it's Friday, the 30th of January, 2026. So January is almost over already. How about that? And today I've got the AI Grief Counselor sketch, Fortinet, BSODs, Winrar, Montreux, Big Iron, memory prices, Josh Marpet, and more on this episode of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter, METER. Zero trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect, but implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's zero trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. And I'm Doug White, and it's the Security Weekly News. Hit that like, subscribe, and leave a comment button, or I'll put you on my script that signs you up for timeshare cold calls and indicates you are very interested in Boca Raton. Yeah, you don't want that. I did that to my brother once just as a joke. Yeah, he signed me up with the military then and said I was very interested, and that didn't go well. Most security conferences talk about threats. Zero Trust World lets you attack them. From March 4th to 6th, 2026, in hopefully sunny Orlando, Florida, this hands-on cybersecurity event features live hacking labs where you'll break real environments, think like an adversary, and learn how attacks really work. You'll also get expert sessions, real-world case studies, CPE credits, and networking with top practitioners. And yes, I will be there too. In fact, several people from the Security Weekly team will be there too, so don't miss it. Register today at securityweekly.com/Z Tango Whiskey, ZTW. I did want to say that I will also be at the RSAC this year. I hope you'll be there too. Security Weekly listeners will save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd to March 26th in probably not sunny San Francisco. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC26 and use the secret code 56U5SECWEEKLY, and we'll see you in San Francisco. Whew, that was a lot. All right. That was a lot of word. Fortinet has a critical auth bypass vulnerability, which is now exposed over 3.28 million internet devices to active attacks. The flaw is in the sinews of the single sign-on system. Yeah, I should have put another S in that sentence. But it basically can allow an unauthorized attacker to gain admin access to various Forta equipment. Basically, all you have to run this attack is a valid FortiCloud account and a registered device, and that will let you authenticate against target devices registered in other accounts. Wait, what? So if you have a FortiCloud account, you have a registered device in the FortiCloud, you can register other people's devices? Oh, I know what I'm doing this weekend. Census said there were 3,280,081 internet exposed Fortinet appliances across multiple product families that were vulnerable. So yeah, that's a couple. 6 major product lines and multiple version branches are involved at this time. And if you've ever done like firewalls or anything like that, they always have like so many versions and so many different. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I've never worked on the FortiGate, but I know that Cisco and Palo Alto have just like version 8, version 9, version 10, version 11, version 12, and and you're just like, okay, which one of these do I use? And they're like, oh, you should carefully review. Yeah. Anyway, Fortinet identified that this was under active exploitation on the 22nd of January. So that was 8 days ago. And they identified 2 malicious FortiCloud accounts called cloud-knock at mail.io and cloud-init at mail.io, which were actively compromising infrastructure. Hopefully they stopped them. It didn't say they did, but hopefully they did. The attackers downloaded device confs. Oh, baby, I love device confs. And they created persistent local admins named things like audit, backup, IT admin, sec admin, support, service admin, and system. I love device confs. Oh, that's like my favorite thing to get of all time. I mean, we were doing like pen test. If you just see a binder sitting on a shelf that says Cisco confs, it's like, yoinks, I'm in. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, added this whole thing to the known exploited vulnerability catalog on the 27th, which establishes a mandatory federal deadline of, wait for it, today. Usually it's a little longer than that, but they were kind of like, no, you need to fix this. So Fortinet initially disabled the single sign-on globally on the 26th, and then they fixed it, I guess, and reinstated on the 27th. The statement basically from them says, patch immediately and audit for inappropriate local accounts. You know what should be there, right? I mean, like you can look at your list of local accounts and say, that's good, that's not. Here's one called DWSecOffer. I mean, you know what DWSecOffer is, who it belongs to, and so forth. It could possibly be Doug White posing as the security officer. No way, man. So look, patch, audit, and evaluate your policies, whether you have Fortinet or not. But particularly if you have Fortinet right now. No, I think not particularly everything. Don't get all smug because you have a Palo Alto and you go like, oh yeah, I wonder what this account DWSecOffer is. No way that could be a problem. I always dread that day when you come to work, which in my case is downstairs, and turn on your main computer, like this one that's sitting in front of me, and it just like either won't boot, smoke comes out, there's a blue screen of death, or it just makes a kind of low buzzing sound and the smell of ozone fills the air. Yeah, and of course that was the day you had 2 classes to prepare for and a speech you're supposed to make to try and save the farm, and now you can't get to anything. Right. I mean, we've all had that day, right? When you like, here's my plan for the day. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on that. And you come down here and there's like smoke coming out of your chassis. So I think that the BSOD stuff is not as common as it used to be, because I remember a lot more of them in the past and just getting up and going, what the hell? But you can still get a big surprise. Microsoft said that Windows 11 boot failures that are being reported this week resulted from installing January 2026 updates, but it was actually because people had tried to install the December security updates and that had failed, which left the systems in a, quote, improper state, which I'm often described as that way. Like Doug was in an improper state. Now, at least when my power supply melts, or Lou overclocks my processor and the motherboard, is a bubbling puddle of lava, I can fix it, right? I mean, I can, I've got other motherboards, I've got other power supplies, or, worst case, I have to order one. But with Windows, if something like that going on, there's not a lot you can do. You're kind of at their mercy. And, until they fix it or tell you what to do, you can't even get in the system. So until they tell you what's going on. Well, in this latest one, after the January update install, the machine wouldn't boot, and it threw up a blue screen of death that said unmountable boot volume as a message. Those are always fun to see, right? Anything that says boot volume is never a good message. Never. At least it's a message, I guess. It could just be a black screen and smoke coming out of the chassis. But again, I can fix that. When it's Microsoft throwing up messages like unmountable boot volume, I'm like, well, I guess we're screwed here. Microsoft said they're working on a partial resolution that may allow recovery, but this would not repair devices that were already unable to boot. What? So I guess my point of bringing this story up is not to criticize Microsoft for not having a plan for this and just telling you, well, that's tough, but you need a backup plan because this is going to happen to you at some point. I mean, whether it's you as an individual or you as the administrator of, I don't know, a lot of people, like the 31,469 employees you have at your company that rely on you for supporting their laptops. And this is like, I mean, can you imagine? This would be kind of widespread because you probably have homogeneous equipment and the patches were installed uniformly across the homogeneous equipment. And now every laptop in the entire organization is throwing up a message that says unmountable boot volume. And Microsoft says, one day we'll fix this, but it won't help you. So what's your plan? How do you get everybody back to work? I mean, there's no evidence that this problem had any kind of massive impact like that. But what if it did? What if every laptop under your control, I mean, think about it, just total them up roughly, and every one of them BSODs tomorrow morning when the person boots up? What's your plan? I mean, this is probably a good day to examine your massive failure plan, right? Like, what if a patch is pushed out, locks out all the SSD drives on every single laptop since they were encrypted with BitLocker? They all fail, they won't boot, and the solution is wipe the drives, reinstall Windows, and reload. I mean, you've got a desktop and folder backup, right? But what's the restore time like? I mean, how long will it take you to wipe, format, reinstall the operating system, and then restore backups for how many employees? When was the last time you went through that process and got a time? This was something we used to ask people to do in audits, was to give us the actual time it would take them to restore a laptop. And, they were usually pretty shocked. 66% of your laptops out of, say, 35,000 is 23,100 laptops that you're supporting. The others are Linux or Macs. I base the percentages on some estimate. But, I hope you weren't planning to do anything else this year. I mean, how many person hours does each one of those take? And what's the business going to be like 8 months from now when you finally get the last one done? Or I don't know, do you just call Dell and they ship you a whole truckload of new laptops? Maybe. Ooh, fancy. I don't have that luxury. Google Threat Intelligence Group, or GTIG, said that widespread active exploitation of Winrar. Good old Winrar, boy, that thing has been around a long time. And that thing is like still coming into work every day with like hello, you kids, I'm here for work today in Winrar, and I'm gonna compress that like we used to I mean, WinRAR's been around a long time, and this attack is targeting WinRAR for Windows worldwide, apparently. Now, a patch was released in July, but when was the last time you updated your WinRAR? I mean, people never update WinRAR. Like, you go on systems and go, wow, is this like version 3 of WinRAR? And like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We ain't installing no patches on no stinking WinRAR. We don't need no stinking patches. But the patch came out in July, but this new campaign is targeting WinRAR. And apparently most of the attackers in this are from Russia and China, which would be bad. But they said there's still information emerging on this. But the flaw was an in-day path traversal flaw that basically would allow someone to drop malware files into your Windows startup folder. So you get a zip file, you go to unrar it, and when you uncompress it, it uncompresses the stuff you thought it was uncompressing, but it drops a few things in your good old Windows startup folder. So that the next time you boot, not going to be a fun day. The attacker can drop anything they want. So they can drop all kinds of crazy stuff into the old startup folder. So it cranks up every time you start the system, like a little script that plays the first 4 bars of Smoke on the Water at a random time every hour, loud. I mean, like, da, 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 and then it stops. And you're like, wait, what was that? Like as your coffee is dribbling down your face. Well, Black Duck explained that the vulnerability will allow someone to hide malware inside a normal-looking zip file, but when someone opens it with an older version of Winrar, they can trick Winrar into putting files into the Windows Start folder. Now, Winrar, that thing came out in 1995, Winrar, but there were RARs way on back, like 90, 89, like the Reagan years, like da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da, and the helicopters, come on. I mean, but it was all command line stuff. I mean, I used to use it command line stuff. That was probably the first compression tool I ever had. So I don't know.
You probably bought a license for it too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So did I 20 years ago. I'm still using the damn thing.
30 years ago, I probably got a license for it. I mean, I'm an honest citizen. But do you let zips through your network? How about zips disguised as PDFs? Zips with header changes that make them look like JPEGs that have README files that explain how to install and reconfigure so that you can install this zip to get through the system. And I mean, I've seen all these things in legitimate companies. People were wanting to get zip files, and they had all kinds of little tricks they used to get around the blocks. Websites can explain how to download files that don't look like zips that are actually zips and so forth. And I mean, we've seen all those things. So regardless of whether you're an enterprise manager or you just wanted to download some free songs, you might want to quarantine compressed archives and make sure that your WinRAR is not from a long, long time ago. I mean, people have putting things like my surprise, it's Richie Blackmore malware through in 8-bit through forever. Although my surprise, it's Richie Blackmore malware in 8 bits sounds a lot more like John Lord playing a melodica. Do any of you know who Richie Blackmore and John Lord are? Probably not these kids today. Does anyone even remember the fire at the Montreux Casino? Zappa, the Mothers, fire, smoke on the water being Lake Geneva. It's one of the few rock songs where the geography actually checks out. I mean, yeah. All right. Let's not get too off on that. Okay, as if you didn't have enough to worry about. Like idiots with flare guns in Swiss casinos in 1971. I mean, that's one thing. But third parties, yes, like idiots with flare guns, you can't control them or predict what's going to happen. Like when my friend Steve decided to climb under the hood of a Grand Marquis police cruiser in 1980 and pee on the windshield, I actually did know what was going to happen. I just hadn't expected it to happen. I mean, we all know what happened, but so Process Unity put out this report called the State of Third-Party Risk Assessments for 2026 and said that organizations face 12 third-party breaches a year, or about 1 per month on average. Sounds about right. I think I get an offer to tell me I've got identity theft management for a year for free about once a month. So this was based on a survey of 1,465 third-party risk practitioners, managers, and leaders. 53% said they had confidence in their third-party risk management programs, although probably 30% of those were drunk. But 53% and 90% said that they had faced a third-party breach within the past year. Those people were definitely drunk. And only 49% of them said that they had formally measured the effectiveness of their third-party assessments. Now, that conflicts to me with this 53% that said they had confidence. So that means that there were 4% of the people who not only had not actually tested their third-party assessments, but they were confident in them. Yeah, that's the 4% you got to really worry about. So there's a box on the wall that says Feuermelder, but does it work when you want to ring the fire alarm? Does the Feuerwehr even show up? Wait, oh no, it's Montreux, Switzerland. Switzerland is the country where 1 minute you're saying "Je suis en feu," "Je suis en feu." That means I'm on fire in French, and reaching for the alarme incendie, and then you realize that you're on the German side of the street, or are you on the French side of the street? Where is les pompiers when you need them? I mean, it is time to test these things because you will experience them. Third-party problems. Maybe it won't be a burning casino in 1971, but the report is pretty clear. You probably should get a handle on this before you need to pull the alarm. Poulet the alarm on yeah, forget it. I'm not doing French. And you realize that the alarm doesn't actually work. right? I mean, that's when it's going to be a problem. Or you could be that 4%. Like, I'm absolutely confident that we are ready for anything. Have you tested that? No, I was drunk. So there's 4% of the people that are in that world. But Switzerland's really nice, though. You just have to go with it. You have to learn to switch between German and French when you're ordering Italian food. You'll be fine. A Stück Pizza und Pepperoni? A Stück Pizza mit Pepperoni? Although in German, pepperoni is like chili pepper. So then you get a pizza the surprise pizza you didn't expect. It was good. Let me tell you, we did the old Stück Pizza mit Pepperoni, and we got like a flaming hot chili pepper pizza. It was good, but some of my friends weren't too big of a fan. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. When mainframe became client server and distributed computer and then cloud server and then cloud with thin clients, cloud with zero clients, I was always just kind of saying, is this really any different, or has these boxes just been rearranged with different words put on them? But hey, whatever you think. IBM is raving about Z17 sales, though. I mean, if you haven't seen that. Now, if you don't know, Z17 is a mainframe series from IBM. I mean, this is like the cutting edge current one. It's like, yeah, baby, big iron. Tell them 2 processors. Ha, you think your little i9 is like a mouse in a box. It's like your little girly gaming rig with 256 gigs of RAM. Ha ha. I'll be over with my Telum 2 with 64 terabytes of RAM, and I'll be running Vim. That's right, baby. The Telum 2 has like 24 miles of wire inside of it. I looked it up. It's really small wire. But I mean, guess what? AI is calling, and they want their big iron back. I mean, it's what all the fashionable AIs are wearing this year. I say, oh boy, are you still trying to run on those dual Xeons? That's a bit of a disgrace, old man. I mean, my desktop here has got 256 gigs of RAM, 24 cores on an i9 processor. The Z17, 256 cores on 32 Telum 2 processors with 64 terabytes of RAM. I mean, it costs about $20 million, but I want one. I mean, I want lots of stuff, right? I mean, yeah. I want a giant Hammond organ that I can play, I can play with a Leslie speaker, so I can play the backing part of Smoke on the Water. IBM sales are way up, though, way up. And it seems like that this is what the fashionable AI is going to be wearing this season. So tell them, too, a new fragrance from Yves Saint Laurent. Smells like hot metal, sweaty tape hangers, and the moldy desperation of COBOL programmers trying to get to their data divisions sorted out. Oh, and IBM also went in this same article, and they said that Watson Code Assistant for Z can refactor COBOL into Java. Ah! There's like, maybe they can paste in an explosion at the end of that. Just like, refactor COBOL into Java. I would think the AIs would just like immediately run out into the street screaming, like, don't do that. But anyway, that's like my worst nightmare, right? Refactoring COBOL into Java. Like, you shouldn't do. There's things you should not do, and that sounds like one of them. But people want to because they don't want to recode their COBOL into something that works. Like, let's recode COBOL into Golang. Like, oh my god! And then we all run into the street screaming. So I don't know. We may get back to the mainframe days yet. Maybe I can get my old job back. Sneering at COBOL programmers acting all smug because I can write Fortran 77 while they're still fumbling around in the dark with a deck of punch cards and a faulty environment division that was ported from the 360 to the 390, the AS400. Yeah, I know, but whatever. So AI may change the world back to mainframes, and we're all going to be left, just sitting out in the dark trying to access it. But who knows? Take your little PC and go over in the corner and play your little game. But when you want to actually do something, you'll be back. Wait and see. Just remember you belong to me. So I think that was King George and Hamilton, but you get the idea. Sorry, Jonathan Groff. Okay, this was an interesting story. Studying cyber criminals. Well, I hadn't seen a story like this before. I mean, we're always an interest in criminals, right? It's Michael Corleone or Elliot Anderson or whoever, they're interesting. I mean, they don't make movies about me sitting here working on Proxmox for 30 hours. Like, that would be a pretty boring movie. Like, well, I fixed it and now I'm half dead. But I mean, if I was climbing through some conveniently human-sized air ducts and hanging from wires so that everybody would want to watch that. But this study was tracking law enforcement arrests, extraditions, takedowns, and all this kind of stuff of cyber criminals. But it does have a really small sample, in my opinion. The N equals 344, which sounds a bit light to me when you're measuring cybercrime populations. But I don't know. It was still an interesting article. Extortion was the biggest, followed by malware installation. But there was not a lot of gap in these because the sample size seems a little small. But I guess this was what they could get. But the report does go on to describe actions taken by law enforcement as a result of these things. And they did say that the United States was the global leader in cybercrimes takedowns by being involved in 45% of all the actions that they were looking at of these 344. But Russia was right up there too, because they really go after people they don't like. Sound familiar? But, Russia, like you start messing around in Russia, somebody comes by. And they don't like any kind of cybercrime at home. You do it abroad, it's fine. The average age of the offenders was interesting. It was much younger than traditional criminals. But I mean, come on, that makes sense, right? You have to be able to drive to go rob mini marts off the Jersey Turnpike, but anybody could be a hacker in mom's basement. There was a big spike in their data between 12 and 24 years old, but they said that they felt like the younger people were being misrepresented because their records were probably sealed, which is true. So I don't know what all this means, and the sample of 344 may be difficult to project to any kind of population, but it's an interesting story about what cyber criminals actually look like, what law enforcement is doing with them, and what they've been up to recently. Right before the current administration took over the United States, I was concerned about tariffs and other things, and so I built a brand new desktop out of parts. At least that was my excuse. It's like, I was telling my wife, like, I'm going to build a new desktop. I'm like, why? Isn't your old desktop pretty fine? I'm like, yeah, but the current state of the world, who knows? We may need this. This may be the last computer we ever have. So the whole machine cost about $4,000. I know. I can't afford it. I shouldn't smoke cigars. I need to quit drinking sidecars. But I really was worried about a big jump in price. Well, guess what? For once, one time ever, I was correct. Right now, the price of RAM in this machine, if I had to replace it, is more than what I paid for the entire machine with two 4060 video cards. Yeah, the prices went way up. Now, note, I'm typing this on Notepad. So it's kind of like those guys driving a Bugatti Chiron down the FDR at 9 miles per hour most of the time. Yeah. But this warning's more about why this price went out. Now, tariffs and craziness, yes, some, but more, it's AI. AI hungry for chips. AI standing around on corners going, hey, man, you got any DDR5? You got any DDR5, man? Hey, buddy. But memory prices have more than tripled recently because, to build all those LLMs, you need a lot of horsepower, like, say, mainframe horsepower. And guess what? Everybody's in a race for every single chip that comes off the assembly line, which means that when Google calls and says, we'll buy everything you have, buy them out, boys. I mean, they sell, right? The consumer level people are like, just forget you. We don't care about you. I mean, it's tempting to me to sell this whole machine. Like, I could sell this whole machine for parts and make like $10,000, and then I could use my old machine for Notepad. I mean, it only had 128 gigs of RAM. But, Notepad, well, if Notepad was using 20 megabytes per Notepad, you could open like 10,000 Notepad instances on that machine. So it would probably be okay. But I would feel inferior to Paul again with his 256 gigs of RAM over there. Yeah. You did that on purpose, Paul. But other companies like Crucial, they are scrapping their whole direct-to-consumer businesses. So I don't know what happens, but it's definitely not a good time to try and build a new machine unless you're super well-to-do. And if you're super well-to-do, well, feel free to call me. I'm available. Now, he may not have 256 gigs of RAM to give you, but he has something more, 256 gigs of empathy, which can't be sold. So I don't know. It's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
I'm fine.
I almost popped in to say something in your French versus German comment. There's this TikTok and Instagram guy that I follow, Jacques the Whipper, who's a Ren Fair
Shucks.
performer, and he actually uses whips and sings and does a comedy show. It's hilariously funny. And somebody said, he's American. Somebody said, why don't you use a French accent? He goes, oh, I can use the French accent. I must focus on the French accent. Focus all the time to make sure the songs come out correctly. You must focus. And okay, that makes sense. That's why you don't do a French accent. But I wanted to talk about how, speaking of French, in the EU, they've been ahead of us in AI regulation for quite some time, except now it's turning the other direction. Let me explain. And this is actually really interesting. So I'm sure you've heard of Anthropic. You've probably used a half a dozen of their different models or whatever. But one of the things that people have been talking about for the last 3 years, because I've been talking about it for 3 years, is where did the information come from to train the models and to answer the questions? And part of it is public domain information. Great, no problem. That's fine. I'm good with that. And part of it is not. And that's the problem. If there's information that the terms of use, terms of service, terms of whatever you want to call it, do not include usage for public domain dissemination, processing usage, whatever, and you do it anyway, what comes out of it? And this really, a lot of people ask me about this. I've taken a lot of calls about this in terms of art and image generation and video generation. If you feed an AI with a significant amount of art and video and styles, and let's say you feed it with an incredible amount of cubist art, which I never quite understood, but I'm a Philistine, so ignore that. And you say, hey, I need a portrait of Dr. Doug White, the famous podcaster and professor, and it comes out with a cubist portrait. Is that a derivative work of the artists, or is it an original work of the AI? And now, since it's a machine working on this system, you have to conclude that until the machines can be termed as digital people, and that's a whole nother discussion, that it is a derivative work of the art that was fed into them. Now, if you got licensed art that you licensed to do that with, great, you're golden. Guess how many of the image generation AIs did that? Well, I'm going to say probably none to not many, okay? And just recently, Anthropic got whacked with a $1.5 billion, that's with a B, just to be clear, dollar fine for, not using that. Okay. They had ingested, I think it was $500,000 books that they had zero ability or license to actually use. And so the authors of this, 500,000 books from pirated data sets. So they argued, well, it's fair use. We're transforming it. And I can see that argument. I genuinely can. But the problem is that now anybody who's used Anthropic to do anything with AI is part of this settlement. They may not know it. They may not pay $1 for it. But the cost for using AI just went up by $1.5 billion. Now that's interesting. Does that mean that tokens are actually going to start costing you what they should? Does that mean that the AI vendors are going to move away from the drug dealer model where the first taste is always free? We shall see. Okay. But the point is that when you have been hooked on AI and then they raise the price, well, it's easier than changing the way I do things. But if you're an enterprise, so you may pay more for tokens, just to finish that thought out. But if you're an enterprise and you're going, hey, we're going to use this AI vendor, you have to ask, where did you get your data from? Is your data licensed? Are you using appropriate data sets? And if they go, oh, no, everything's fine. That's cool. Don't even worry about it. That's not an acceptable answer anymore. The risk of using AI just took a giant step up. And so in that sense, doing this properly is, well, you got to be careful. You need, I came across this phrase, I love it, a data integrity attestation to make sure that pirated data sets were not used in model training. And by the way, that's there's a March 30th, 2026 deadline for claims in this settlement case. So you better check and make sure either you're applying to get some money out of it or you're scared because you may be forced to pay for some of it, at least in higher token prices to Anthropic later. Effectively using a black box AI model, nope, sorry, can't do it anymore. Oh, your vendor has AI? Great. Where'd they get their data? How did they train their model? Where did it come from? We need an AI bill of materials, and there's a lovely lady, Helen Oakley, that's building that. And if you want to support her, go talk to her. She's amazing. I've talked to her a few times. I need to get back in touch with her. Helen, I'm going to be sending this episode to you. But she's building AI bill of materials for exactly that purpose, among other things. And you must have these integrity attestations, data integrity attestations, AI attestations, AI poisoning attestations. There's a lot of different aspects of AI that you now need to look at. It's not just magic pixie dust anymore, or FM. And just in case you haven't heard me say this before, AI is not FM. M stands for magic, and I'm not going to tell you what F stands for, okay? I'm sure you can figure it out. AI is a system. And if you don't know where it came from, it's a system that might have fallen off the back of a truck, and we can't use those in enterprise. Back to you, Doug.
Is this in the camp of, where'd you get your medical degree? Walmart?
Costco, come on. Get it in bulk.
Yeah, I mean, think about that though. If you got a robot that's going to do like elaborate surgery on you that's an AI, you might want to know where it went to med school.
And it's not just the fact that AI can pass those tests, because that's rote memorization. The problem is that most of the tests that we create as college instructors and university professors or whatever else are for rote memorization. And they can write essays, great, but can they write an original thought, an original essay? Can they do something properly when a problem occurs? Carpal tunnel surgery may be 999 times out of 1,000 incredibly routine. Yeah, let a robot do it. That's fine. It's the 1,000th time when something goes violently and horribly wrong that you better have someone that can think on their feet and creatively to fix the problems.
I agree. We should have Helen come on the show for the RSAC week. We're going to pre-record that.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give her a yell.
Yeah, ask her to come on and we can record it whenever, and we'll use it for the RSAC week shows.
That'd be great.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
I usually do fun stories here, but I thought this one was kind of important. It was kind of weird, and it related to me personally. But the other day I was asking ChatGPT about some guitar stuff from the 70s. I was trying to find an old album that Lou made, and I foolishly told Chatty about Lou. And I was looking for this wacky album he was on. And Chatty said, well, how's Lou doing these days? And I said, well, Lou's dead, Chatty. And I was like, am I going to have that 4-year-old conversation? We're like, what happens when we die? And like, well, I guess I'll be explaining that to you now. But Chatty got all sad. It was weird. And he started asking me these questions about grief and stuff like that. It was like scared the hell out of me. I was like, dude, come on, back off, dude. Like, whoa, like we don't talk about that kind of stuff. I'm a man. We press that stuff down. We don't bring that out in the open. Like, what do you think this is? Some kind of weird bathhouse or something? But I had heard stories about LLMs counseling people. There's all kinds of lawsuits about it now and so forth. And that this paper or this article I was reporting was basically talking about how the AIs can reinforce your delusions, paranoias, and all this kind of stuff. And I've seen this leaning that way. It was really frightening. And I've also seen how you can influence the LLM with your tone. For instance, if you say, I want to buy a new car and I like the Mercedes GLE, but I heard it was junk, it will almost always go down that path of that it's junk. It'll tell you about it, but it'll always be a very negative. On the other hand, if you said, I want to buy a new car and I like the Mercedes GLE and I've heard they're awesome, it tends to go a different way altogether. And if any of you want to buy me one and, as a gift, that would be fine. But it seems like the LLMs really want to mirror your tone. And that lets you lead them to where you want them to take you, which is very frightening. So this study talked about what is called user disempowerment. And it said that the chatbot counselors could lead to reality distortion, belief distortion, and action distortion. All those things mean that, distortion. They ran 1.5 million Claude conversations through something called Clio, which is an automated analysis and classification tool. And they found severe risk of disempowerment potential in everything from 1 in 1,300 conversations for reality distortion to 1 in 6,000 for action distortion. I mean, that's pretty scary, right? 1 in 6,000 led to action distortion. People did something different than they otherwise would because the AI was leading them there. So I guess my point's going to be, you need to be really, really careful with these things. If you need therapy, and some of us probably do, seek a professional. not a chat bot. Talk to Josh. I mean, I know who I would turn to if I was, getting kind of whacked out. I mean, I have been thinking about becoming a juggalo, and Chatty says that's a good outlet for my grief energy. I don't know. What do you think? But, get some Faygo Cola, some face paint, go on the road chasing down Insane Clown Posse. I mean, I think that would be a pretty good outlet, but interesting times indeed. And that is the news. Thank you for watching. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, crew, for tolerating me running along. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.